Ever notice those massive numbers in the news? National debts with more zeros than you can count? Here's the wild part. Nearly every country has one. The US, Japan, Germany, even tiny island nations are all in debt. So if everyone's borrowing, who's doing the lending? It sounds like a paradox, but the answer is surprisingly simple. Think of countries not as individuals, but as huge households with millions of people, businesses, and a government managing it all. Borrowing and lending happen between all of these parts, both inside and outside the country. This isn't new. Governments have borrowed for centuries, from funding wars to building infrastructure. Today, the scale is unprecedented, with money flowing across borders in seconds. The real question, who actually owns all this debt? The answer isn't a shadowy figure in a dark room. It's a mix of other governments, international organizations, and even regular people. Yes, you or someone you know might be a lender to your own government. National debt is about more than economics. It's about trust, future plans, and how societies function. So let's pull back the curtain and see who's on the other side of these massive IOUs. The story of debt is the story of how modern societies are built and maintained. It's not just about numbers, it's about relationships and trust. The lenders are everywhere, not just in far-off capitals. Understanding this web is key to understanding the global economy. So, who does the world owe money to? Let's find out. The answer might surprise you. Before we find the lenders, let's clarify what national debt really is. Imagine a government as a household. It earns money, mostly from taxes, and spends on things like roads, schools, and healthcare. Sometimes it spends more than it collects in a year. That's a budget deficit. To cover the gap, governments borrow by selling bonds, fancy IOUs promising repayment with interest. The national debt is the total of all these IOUs accumulated over years. Deficit is the yearly shortfall. Debt is the sum of all past deficits. Think of it like overspending $100 every year for 10 years. Your total debt is $1,000 plus interest. Governments constantly issue new bonds to borrow and pay off old ones, a continuous cycle. National debt isn't a single loan, but millions of bonds held by millions of lenders, each with different terms. This debt is spread out, not owed to one entity. When you hear about rising national debt, it means more borrowing to cover new deficits. The process is ongoing, with borrowing and repayment happening all the time. Understanding this cycle is crucial to understanding who the lenders are. It's not just about numbers, it's about how governments manage their finances. The debt is a living, breathing part of the economy. So, who holds all these bonds? Let's break it down. The answer is more diverse than you might think. One of the biggest lenders to any country is other countries. Why would rivals lend to each other? It's about investment and stability, not friendship. Countries like China and Japan buy US government bonds because they're seen as safe investments. For example, when China sells goods to the US, it ends up with lots of US dollars. Instead of holding cash, China buys US bonds to earn interest. By doing this, China is lending its dollars back to the US government, creating a cycle of mutual dependence. The US gets funding, China gets a safe place to invest. This isn't unique to the US. European countries lend to each other, and emerging economies borrow from developed nations. It's a global web of lending and borrowing. Sometimes this creates political tension. If one country owes a lot to another, it can shift the power dynamic. But dumping bonds would hurt the lender too, so their fates are intertwined. This interconnectedness encourages stability. Financial crises in one country can quickly affect others. The global debt web is complex, but it often promotes cooperation. So, when you hear about foreign countries holding national debt, remember, it's usually a strategic investment, not a threat. These relationships are built on trust and mutual benefit. The world's economies are more connected than ever. Debt ties countries together in ways that go beyond politics. It's not just about money, it's about global stability. The lenders and borrowers need each other. That's why the system works. Next, let's look closer to home. Who else holds the IOUs? Foreign countries are big lenders, but most national debt is actually owed to people and institutions within the country itself. Government bonds aren't just sold to other governments, they're available to anyone. Regular people, banks, pension funds, and companies all buy them. Your retirement savings might include government bonds, making you a lender to your own government. Banks and corporations also invest in bonds to keep their money safe and earn interest. A large chunk of national debt is really owed to citizens and domestic institutions. International organizations like the IMF and World Bank also lend to countries in crisis, often with conditions for reform. Surprisingly, some debt is held by government agencies themselves, like Social Security trust funds investing in government bonds. It's like moving money from one pocket to another, but keeping track with IOUs. The debt is spread across a wide range of holders, both at home and abroad. This diversity makes the system more stable. It's not just foreign powers, it's us too. The web of debt is woven through every part of the economy. But why do governments borrow so much in the first place? Why do countries borrow so much? It's not just bad budgeting. Governments borrow to invest in the future, big projects like highways, railways, and schools that benefit everyone for decades. Borrowing spreads the cost over many years, like a family taking out a mortgage to buy a house. Citizens enjoy the benefits now, while future generations help pay through taxes. Borrowing can also help during recessions. When tax revenues fall and spending needs rise, governments borrow to avoid cutting essential services. This is called counter-cyclical spending, helping economies recover faster. Emergencies like wars, pandemics, or disasters also require quick, massive spending. Borrowing is often the only option. During COVID-19, governments worldwide borrowed trillions to support healthcare and citizens. In these cases, debt isn't a choice, it's a necessity. Used wisely, borrowing can drive growth and protect society. The key is how the money is used. Debt can be a powerful tool for progress, but not all debt is created equal. Debt can be good or bad depending on how it's used. Good debt funds investments that boost future economic growth, like infrastructure, education, or research. These investments pay for themselves over time, making the country richer. It's like a business borrowing to buy equipment that increases profits. Bad debt, on the other hand, funds current consumption without future benefits, like borrowing for tax cuts or wasteful projects. This kind of debt doesn't create new income, making repayment harder. If debt grows faster than the economy, it can spiral out of control. Lenders may demand higher interest rates, increasing the burden. The real question isn't just how much debt, but what is it used for? Productive debt can build prosperity. Unproductive debt can lead to crisis. Managing debt wisely is crucial for a healthy economy. It's a tool, not a monster. So, is national debt really a ticking time bomb? National debt sparks fear, but many worries are based on myths. Unlike a household, a country doesn't have to pay off all its debt at once. It can roll over old bonds with new ones. The idea of burdening our grandchildren is more complex. Future generations inherit both the debt and the assets built with it. Much of the debt is owed to citizens, so interest payments stay within the country. A country that borrows in its own currency, like the US or Japan, can't go bankrupt the way individuals can. It can always create more currency. The real risk is inflation, not insolvency. Fears about foreign countries calling in debt are overblown. Bonds can't be called early, and dumping them would hurt the seller. The system is designed for stability, not sudden collapse. Debt is a tool, not a ticking time bomb. The key is responsible management and smart investment. Understanding these facts helps cut through the fear. National debt is complex but not inherently dangerous. So who really gets the money back? Let's recap who is the money owed to. There's no single lender. It's a global web of individuals, institutions, and governments. Foreign countries like China and Japan hold debt as a safe investment, not as a favor. Most debt, especially in countries like the US, is owed to domestic citizens and institutions, your pension, your bank, your insurance. Interest payments on domestic debt stay within the country's economy. International organizations like the IMF and World Bank lend to countries in crisis, promoting global stability. Some debt is even owed between government agencies, more like internal accounting than true debt. The reality is a decentralized system of millions of IOUs, each with its own story. Understanding this complexity is key to informed debate. The image of one country writing a giant check to another is far too simple. Debt is spread across the world and within our own borders. It's everyone and no one, all at once. So why does this matter to you? Why should you care about national debt? Because it shapes your daily life. Responsible borrowing can mean better roads, schools, and jobs. Reckless borrowing can lead to higher interest rates. less public spending, or higher taxes. The way debt is managed affects everything from your mortgage rate to the quality of public services. Knowing who holds the debt helps you see through political scare tactics. Most debt is owed to fellow citizens, not foreign powers. Understanding debt empowers you to ask better questions and demand smarter policies. The story of national debt is about our shared future and the choices we make as a society. Debt is a tool for building the world we want, or a burden if misused. Understanding it is essential for every citizen. The more you know, the better choices we all make.